Demographics determine our destiny. Beginning very soon, 77 million baby boomers will begin to retire. We will see the pool of retirees grow 4 times faster than the pool of workers. This is inevitable. But instead of working to fix this problem, we are about to create more and more new entitlement programs. Remember that old Merle Haggard's verse? Drinking that free bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. That's what we're doing. Yes, demographics determine a country's destiny. That is why, for the first time in this great country's history, the White House will administer the next census. Another proclamation from on high. Now, I'll tell you something. These folks may not can count money, but they sure know how to count votes. On spending, have we met the demands of freedom, or have we abandoned our responsibilities to an ever-growing government? Just when was it decided that the family's budget is secondary to the government's budget? A family, in order to say yes, to what is really needed, must say no to what is only desired. And that's hard, and it hurts. The government spending machine has but 2 speeds, fast and faster. It doesn't matter whether times are good or times are bad, and frankly and sadly, it doesn't matter much if the Democrats or Republicans are in charge. It's insatiable and unstoppable. I presided over the state Senate in Georgia for 16 years in the 1970s and 1980s, and I can remember those days well. Sadly, it appears to me that we are about to repeat those mistakes of the 1970s on a national level. And I'm not talking about those hideous pale blue leisure suits that some folks used to walk around in, or that disco music, or 8 tracks. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the economic malaise, as President Carter called it, of that lost decade. Remember, the America of the 1970s had high taxes, high regulation, high interest rates, loose money, substantial federal intervention, and a lot bigger spending. Then that was reversed in the 1980s, when America had lower taxes, lower regulations, lower inflation, lower interest rates, tighter money, limited federal intervention, and somewhat less spending. As we sit here today in this room, I ask you, in the midst of a severe recession, which formula should we be following? Which path should we be taking? The way that I remember it was that during the 1970s, this nation had 4 separate severe recessions between 1970 and 1982. Since 1982, we have had 2 mild recessions in the 24 years between 1983 and 2007. But now, facing this most severe recession, which direction do we go? Tell me, under what logic do we embrace the policies of the 1970s and reject the policies of the 1980s? Today, we're spending like we're Paris Hilton, regulating like we're Ralph Nader, nationalizing like we're Hugo Chavez, printing money like we're the Weimar Republic, and taxing like we are the Democratic Congress. And to add insult to injury, we now have Pravda, that old Soviet Union propaganda rag, lecturing us, the United States of America, on our anti-capitalist policies. And we have Communist China wagging their finger at us because of our massive deficits, and like a stern parent, even threatening to cut off our allowance. My Jeffersonian friends, the world has been turned upside down, and we are on the bottom, looking up. Unless Congress shows some common sense and budgetary restraint, the Obama nation is on its way to becoming an abomination. Look it up in Webster's. More than one historian has pointed out that world democracies have lasted only until the voters discovered that they could vote generous gifts for themselves out of the public treasury. How far away are we from that happening when we have a government that simply cannot balance political commitments with economic realities? 3 huge surging entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, now make up half of federal spending. And instead of first reforming these costly entitlements, the presidents and the Democrats in Congress are about to add even more entitlement programs, which will take us far beyond the tipping point, where the tax eaters will outnumber the taxpayers. Or as my good friend Senator Grassley has so delicately put it, there will be more pigs than tits. This kind of Obama economics is dangerously irresponsible. And if they are enacted as proposed, you may be sure that, as President Obama's good friend Dr. Jeremiah Wright has said, the chickens will come home to roost. It is frightening to hear the propeller heads in Washington toss around $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there. The so-called stimulus, which is yet to stimulate, was about $1 trillion. The federal government will borrow about $1.5 trillion. The climate change taxes will cost about $1 trillion. Health care reform, once touted that it was going to save money, will cost about $1.5 trillion. They throw around trillions like you and I treat a dollar.